Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. How are you, Monique?
Good. How you doing?
Well,
Hello,
putting
hello.
on our makeup, getting
You
all
look
set
great.
up. How's Monique? This is
This
my
is no
brother.
miracle, Monique. There's a lot of goes into
It
this.
doesn't just happen by itself, okay?
I can see the resemblance happening here, so all good.
Very nice to meet you.
While we
Nice to
both
meet you as
laugh
well.
like Tom Cruise. Monique, you also have Juliana here from
Nice to meet you, Monique.
Ricardo's team.
Nice to meet you.
And yeah, I like the lighting like that, Richie.
We're just playing around with lighting.
Yeah.
Just a
And
little
what
bit too
happened
much.
with
We need-
music? We should also come on. We got Monique. This is
Well, this is the one that I like with my team whenever we're pondering an idea. Oh wait, that's not it. Sorry.
oh, this is real. You thought this wasn't professional.
This is so professional.
This is super professional.
Does a talk make a person or does the person make a talk? Today we have Monique Ruff-Bell. I don't know.
Wow.
Whenever we
That's
ponder
good.
ideas and
That makes Sex in the City. That makes everything sound insightful too. I like
right.
that.
See,
you go.
yeah. We
It's like, wow,
already
she
used it
really
in the company
he
calls.
really thought about what he's sharing
Yeah.
right now.
Right there.
Like we're gonna
That's
make
pretty
it.
Exactly.
What that's a good one. Are there other options that you got there going for you?
Do you mean music?
Yeah, that's like really good.
Not obnoxiously Latino. Here we go.
Yo fuera tu gato, subiera una foto los viernes y los lunes. Pa' que todo el mundo
This is for people are gonna be confused. They're like, is this Ted's theme?
Just looking at the calendar.
Reggaeton?
Which film was this?
Yeah. By the way, there's we can already start letting I'm starting to see a bunch of people.
Perfect.
How many people are registered?
39.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we usually try and keep it to a really minimum because for a Q&A we don't want to spend too much time on that as well. But we'll see how many continue trickling in here.
All right.
How
then
are
I'm
you?
gonna admit them now.
You're in New Jersey, right?
I'm in New Jersey. Yeah.
Very nice. I was telling my brother, Richie asked me like, oh, did she grow up in New Jersey? I'm not sure.
Yes.
You did?
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
New Jersey has been home. And I was telling Richie that when we got to connect a little bit before, and hello everyone, welcome. While we continue just waiting for a number of other individuals here. Can we do there you go. Thank you. You read my mind, Juliana. Yeah, I was joking with Richie, the same thing that I mentioned to you about, I moved to Miami and the only way that I know who else is a New Yorker is when I'm in the elevator and someone wants to close the door real quick. That's yeah. It still works every time. And I'm like, am I crazy? I told Richie, I'm like, am I crazy? And he's like, no, I think you agree with me, right, Richie?
Yeah, 100%. That's
very true.
It's you can't get more New Yorker than that. That's for sure. Well, this is great. I love it. We'll get started and we'll go from there. And as people join in, they'll continue joining in. But welcome everyone. Today we have the privilege of hosting Monique Ruff-Bell, the Chief Program and Strategy Officer at TED Conferences. Monique, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It would be great if everyone could put in the chat where they're kind of coming in from so we can all see.
Yes,
everyone's kind of coming in.
it.
I'm in Jersey, so
yeah,
everybody else.
And I'll mention this, but thank you for all joining us, especially the ones joining us from California and the West Coast. I know it's fairly early for you. That includes my brother. He's not a morning bird, and he's here. So we appreciate you, Richie.
thank you. Oh, I got emotional for a little bit.
Richie loves the spotlight.
I promised myself I wasn't gonna.
every 20 seconds in our conversation, Monique, I'm gonna have to ask Richie a question so he feels just as special.
He has to feel included. I get it. No
Yes,
problem.
yes. It's a it's a lifelong family thing that I've dealt with.
But we also have it on paper. We have
It's in our contract.
You have people from everywhere joining, London and
yeah, oh, that's cool.
Alabama, everywhere, Canada.
I love that. Well, for everyone, I'm Alejandro Garcia-Amaya, as you all know, founder of the Techstars Alumni and AnswerBite. I'm here with my co-host, my brother, Ricardo, fellow seasoned venture-backed tech founder who leads a number of powerful communities, including the YC alumni. By the way, how are you doing? I forgot to ask you, Richie. How are you doing with he fell off his horse, something that we can all relate to, us normal folk. As he rides he was riding his horse this week, right?
2 days ago. Yeah, no, it's good. Thankfully, nothing happened. That's the first time I fall from the horse, and yes, very relatable in the area that I am around in Carmel Valley, rural. California, but not very relatable in where we have lived most of our lives in big cities.
That's very true. Monique, you mentioned that you grew up in New Jersey. That's always been home for you. Cool.
Always.
Did were there any outings during your childhood that were like more rural, or was it, where in New Jersey are we talking about?
Nowhere near rural. I'm literally like 22 minutes outside of Manhattan.
Okay, gotcha.
So very close to, I've always worked in Manhattan, so very close to the commute. I was always afraid of bugs, so never wanted to be around bugs.
Hey,
which is interesting because you live in New York, you see rats every day. So I'm not afraid of rats, but I'm afraid of mice. So it's just really weird.
That is so true. Like rats don't care and New Yorkers don't care. No. Like rats are walking to work in the morning.
Yeah, it's fellow commuters.
Like Can I tell you a quick story? So in Manhattan, we call our animals New York animals. So I remember one time at a stoplight, I'm in a crosswalk and there's a pigeon standing next to me waiting for the light to change so he could cross in the crosswalk. And so we crossed the crosswalk together.
That's
me
hilarious.
And this pigeon. And I'll never forget it because I've never seen anything like that. And then I seen it again twice. That's only in New York, where pigeons rather cross in the crosswalk than fly.
You'll see a pigeon with AirPods and like smoking, like waiting for the light.
The next time you bumped him in a line to get a bagel, that was awkward.
They know the order real quick too. You can't take your time.
Scoop down.
And Monique, just as a refresh, our community is made up of the top 1% venture-backed tech founders in the world from Y Combinator and Techstars, along with leaders in the event and marketing world. Like I mentioned, those that are able to join us, we're happy to have you here. And please make sure to keep your cameras on, your mute on, and update your profile so we can see your name and company. We'll dedicate 15 minutes at the end of our chat to Q&A, where you can introduce yourself, ask Monique your question. And as we cover subjects that you have a question, please DM my brother, Ricardo, and we'll make sure that we can cover as we go. I'm going to give a little bit of a background on Monique before we start. So sit back and relax, Monique, and then we'll get started. With over 20 years of experience in media, events, and publishing, Monique brings a wealth of knowledge and insights into the world of event management and brand leadership. As Chief Program and Strategy Officer of TED, she oversees global events, TEDx programs, partnerships, and key marketing initiatives. She plays a vital role in shaping and executing TED's strategic plan, contributing to the advancement of its mission, operational excellence, and overall organizational growth. Her former roles have included head of events for TED and leading one of the largest fintech shows in the U.S. as vice president for Money 2020 USA. Excitingly, Monique has just been appointed a board member director for the events venture group, which we'll get into a little later in our talk. And Monique is also a public speaker, podcast host, and mentor in a strategy and business development for organizational growth, career sponsor, mentorship, and ways to become a successful leader. So thank you for listening to that. Okay, so I'd love to cover a bit of background. So Monique, your journey through media events and publishing spans over 20 or so years. What initially sparked your interest in this world of event management and brand leadership?
It's really interesting because no one ever says, I want to grow up to run conferences. Like you kind of stumble into that by doing something else. But I stumbled into that very early in the start of my career, really. It was through an internship in college where I was like, okay, I'm about to graduate. I should be doing some type of internship. Let me find one. And it was for a small media and events company based in Manhattan. And they did media and entertainment events. And so as a 19-year-old going as an intern, you know, they throw you into everything. So I was raising money, pitching to raise money for this event, coordinating speakers and entertainers to speak at the event, and logistics and operations. And I think I was good at it. And, you know, then, you know, LL Cool J was one of the presenters on the stage. And I said to him, good luck, LL, when you go, like so nervous.
That's amazing.
On the stage. And then when he came off, he gave me the biggest hug. And I was like, oh, I'm staying in events for the rest of my life. Like, this is what I need to be doing for the rest of my life, meeting celebrities and getting hugs and, you know, having fun. And my first corporate job out of that internship was working for Ringling Brothers, Bailey and Barnum Circus, and Disney on Ice, traveling the East Coast with the circus, doing promotions and events for them. And so I fell into some of the most interesting, fun, weird jobs in events you can kind of have, and just kind of grew my skill set in that, and then decided I want to be a leader within this industry. I want to be a leader within events, and kind of got really intentional and focused about growing my career as a leader within events and getting certain skill sets, building certain networks, finding certain mentors, getting certain sponsors, which I think the sponsors were the game changer for me. And then kind of ending up being approached by TED for this opportunity to oversee their global events program. And then after 2 years, they gave me this promotion, because even though I was doing that, I was doing a little bit more. And they were like, we should give you the title you really deserve here, because you aren't just doing events. So I oversee all of sales, all of marketing, all of TEDx, and the global events for TED.
So the circus really prepared you for what you
did.
And, you know, I'm curious. First of all, that's amazing. Just, you know, I know that the circus back in the day, all the stops for the Ringling, like it was leveraging off train, and the fact that there was a connection now where you can like cut across so many different cities. Obviously, that's, I don't think is like, was that like in the headquarters in the office and that's where you were? Or did you participate in a lot of, like, did you have to go to a lot of the places where these things were taking place?
So people don't know there's actually 2 circuses. There's one that's on the East Coast and one that's on the West Coast that perform at the same time, and then they switch. And so I was East Coast promotions direct manager. And so anytime they came for the East Coast, I would go to the different venues, and we would do events, promotions, radio stations, anything to get people excited about the circus coming into town. One thing people, you know, didn't realize, some people did because they participated, is you can't put elephants on a truck to get them from the train station to, they're too heavy.
This is what I love about events, by the way. When do you talk about these things? Yeah. The logistics of an elephant. How do you take an elephant and, oh my God.
So you have to walk them from the train station to the venue. And so when I was being interviewed for the job, they said, you know, this is one of the parts of your job where you have to protect the elephants, and you create a barrier between you and the people, the audience, because we do this late at night. We do this at midnight. We shut down roads, like when people hopefully are sleeping, which people never are sleeping. And this is when they had animals in the circus. They no longer put animals in the circus. And so you have to be the protective barrier between the people who are out there looking at the walk and the elephants. So I said, my body has to protect the elephants walking. Okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. So, I mean, it was an interesting,
That's
experience.
wild. Wow. There's a lot that I want to continue going in that space. But let's jump into the TED side of things. Go for it, Richie.
Yeah, no, there's a trend with animals. There's the New York City animals. There's the circus animals. I see.
I know. That's
I
wild.
see
There's a theme.
face,
There's a theme.
Future face in your professional life with that. For those who have never heard of TED, which there might be like 3 people in the world, would you mind sharing what is it and who are the audience and how big is it reach, etc.?
Oh, TED is a global platform. It is all about ideas change everything. Ideas are what we kind of platform and share about. We are a place for curious people is what I like to call it. We're a playground for the curious. And so a lot of people came to understand and know TED because of YouTube, to be honest. So back in about 2004, I think this is when YouTube really started kind of coming on in the scene. TED was a conference that has been going on since 1984. And so TED has been around since then. And it was basically one conference that happened every year. It was a premium conference. So you really did have to have some money to be able to have access to this conference. And it was all about sharing powerful ideas that were happening around the world in society within technology. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. So that was pretty much the core of what was showcased at the time. And then around 2004, Chris Anderson, who is our chairman and who took over TED from the original owners of TED, he took that over around 2004. Used to go to the TED conferences, thought this was magical. It is magical, by the way. And he said, you know, the world should be seeing this. This shouldn't just be behind closed doors for certain people. And that's when kind of YouTube came on the scene and he was like, unleash it to the world for free. And people are like, are you crazy? Like, you are charging this premium price and you kind of want to put all of this out there for free? And he was like, absolutely. And so it blew up from there. And then he was like, well, there were people coming to us, was like, please come to my city, please come to my town with this TED event. And of course, you can't invest and do a bazillion TED events everywhere. So he was like, yet again, let's figure out how we can give this away for free. And so that's when they launched the TEDx licensing program. So TEDx is actually a licensing program. And so what you would do is you would apply to say, I want to host a TED-like event in my city. You would have to agree to certain frameworks and coaching of speakers and the logos and all this kind of stuff. And then if you were approved, you would get the license. And then you can host your own TED event. It couldn't be over a certain ticket price, which is usually $50 to $100. And this popped up all over the world. We got so many people who wanted to kind of host it. And they're all volunteers. They do not get paid. They do not make a profit. This is 100% a volunteer network of people putting on
incredible
TEDx events globally. And last year alone, we had over 3,000 plus TEDx events all around the world. So we have our flagships, which is what the corporate group coordinates, which is what I lead. And we have about 2 to 3 of those a year. We just started launching vertical TED events. So we have a TED AI, 2-day events that we have launched in San Francisco, which happened last year and is happening again, and in Vienna this year. And then you have all of these TEDx events. So,
and I want to get to that actually, because that's incredible. 2 things. One is it's 40 years. So you just celebrated 40 years for your flagship annual conference. Congratulations. That's incredible. Funny enough, we were talking about circuses. Wasn't that the theme of the event?
No, the theme was not a circus.
Oh, no? What was it?
Our party. We had a circus party, closing party.
Oh, a circus party.
Yeah.
But circus was included in the theme.
Circus was a part of, yes, it was a part of the event. And we actually put on a real circus within the TED conference. It's a very special, I've done events my entire career, as I've said, And I've never been to anything like that until I joined TED. I never even went to a TED event before I was recruited to join TED.
No way. Wow.
And so when I
That's so
went
cool.
for the first time, I was like, I'm used to transactional experiences. I'm used to putting on events where someone wants to know you for a very particular reason, usually
Right.
around business purposes. And for you to want to go to TED, it's not because of that. It is because you want to be motivated, inspired. You want to see things differently. You want to understand something. You go through these, I call it an emotional roller coaster when you come to TED, because the Vancouver conference alone is 80 plus TED Talks over 5 days.
Yeah. That's
And you are going through a roller coaster of sometimes you are inspired, you're motivated, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're happy, you're sad. It's like, it's a lot that's going on over those 5 days. And people only see a very edited snippet of a TED Talk instead of like the full on sessions of TED Talks
I
that we host.
I was blown away when I was looking at all the types of events that TED does, right? You had mentioned obviously the flagship conference, and then you were talking about TEDx events, which I definitely want to get into, right? Volunteers licensed by TED. You have TED Next, which is a 3-day conference focusing on the future, answering what is next. TED Salons, invitation only single day events, welcoming an intimate audience for an afternoon or evening of TED Talks revolving around a global theme. And then TED Fest, opportunity to meet TEDxers from around the world while watching the live hosted TED program in New York City. How do you, looking at all these events, how do you determine when it's necessary to even create a new event?
So with TEDx specifically, we want a TEDx in every town. So as long as there are people who want to volunteer and apply for licensing, we are open to growing that even further beyond 3,000. When you're talking about a TED flagship conference, so we consider these TED flagship conference. You also forgot our countdown, which is our climate change and sustainability conference, which we hosted in Detroit last year. And this upcoming year, we do it every other year. So in 2025, we're looking internationally. Hopefully it will be Kenya. I leave for Friday for Kenya to kind of do some site visits there. And so what we look for is kind of, what are some of the big things happening in society right now? Like AI was one of the big things that was happening. And so we were like, we need to make sure that we're creating community in a place where we can talk about the positives and the challenges and have those debates and conversations. So that's why we launched the TED AI, different conferences that we have. With Countdown, climate change is huge. And we were like, we need to be a place for community to have those conversations. So it's really about kind of what's happening within society. With TED Next, we wanted a companion to the Vancouver conference. So the Vancouver conference is a premium conference experience. The standard ticket price is $12,500 to attend. And so that is a premium. There's only certain people that could pay for that type of experience. And then you had TEDx, which was a $50 to $100 ticket, which is not the same as a flagship conference because it is mostly about the talks. It's not about the full experience. I had nothing in the middle of that from a flagship experience. And so I said, we need to launch something because there's so much love for TED and people who would love to go to Vancouver, but they're not there yet. They're not able to afford that, or they want to have that kind of experience. So we were like, if the Vancouver conference is about the future of society, technology, entertainment design, and all of and global issues, what about the future you? How do you plug into evolving and building yourself up differently that you can play a part in the future of? And so we were like, let's create that shorter 3 days. Let's lower the ticket price. So our early bird rate for TED Next is $2,200. Standard price is $2,800. Let's put it in Atlanta. So it's in Atlanta in October because number one, a very diverse city, a lot of great things that are kind of percolating and coming up within that city. And it's easy access for people to kind of attend something from a flagship experience. And so Monique, that all plays into it. For founders, for marketing, heads of events here, is there a particular, how do you prioritize? You mentioned about
how you're thinking about flagship versus all the others and kind of filling in the gaps in between. But how do you, is there, for people out there that are thinking about possibly beginning to host their own event for the first time, or they already have an event and they're trying to take it to the next level, when you are thinking about these events and kind of filling in the gaps, is there a playbook? Are there questions that you ask yourself throughout the years of you going and doing this? Like, are there certain things that you ask yourself to help you figure out if one, it's the right time to kind of try something new? Two, if that's the particular audience, or like what type of questions do you like to ask yourself, or what type of conversations do you surround yourself with in order to make sure that it makes sense?
One main question is, why does the community need this? So what makes you the differentiator? And there's so many events. There's a World of Concrete show that gets like one of the biggest events in Las Vegas that gets 60,000 attendees or whatever. So like there's events in every market you can think of. And so it's really about, why would you kind of put this into the market? What's the big why behind it? And so you really kind of have to have a very clear understanding about that. The events industry is a $1.1 trillion industry. It is a viable industry. It makes a lot of money. That's why a lot of people play in this space. But it also takes a lot of work and a lot of money to launch something new, to build community. It could take 3 to 5 years to really kind of get to a profitable business model for an event if you are really, truly starting from scratch. So you really have to understand why this is needed in the marketplace.
So why? Ask yourself the why. And let's say there is an audience for it. What are other steps, Monique, that you usually take to kind of guide you to what that next, what that next phase could possibly look like? Even now, what you mentioned about like you're going out and scouting in Kenya for this potential, but like how do you figure out that is the right move if there is an audience?
Well, I can take that particular conference as an example. That was for our climate change and sustainability conference. The reason why we know we have funders, we're a nonprofit. A lot of people also don't know that TED is a nonprofit entity. And so we actually have funders and donators who want to donate for particular causes that TED leads. And so we have a couple of funders who are really, really in the climate change space and wants us to participate in doing more in this space. And so we want to bring our event to destinations where they are doing something unique, different, or special with this particular space. Kenya is doing a lot in this space. Detroit was doing a lot. And it was really funny because when I brought it to Detroit last year, the attendees were like, why are we in Detroit? Detroit is a great place, by the way. And after they had the full experience, they were like, of course you came to Detroit. They are doing amazing things here. And so we really think about the destinations that kind of complement what we're trying to do, because we're not a conference that stays in 4 walls. We take the attendees out into the communities and showcase the work that's being done in the community for that particular initiative.
That makes sense. And I think for companies out there, founders out there, like if you have a product, you have a service that you're trying to introduce, I think that storytelling, I don't think anyone does better storytelling than TED, right? They do an incredible job. They bring great storytellers. They have incredible storytelling of what it is that you do. For everyone else out there, that's whether they have a product or they have a service and they're figuring out how to offer this, storytelling, obviously a really big piece of it. But what you're describing to me about finding a theme that gets other people just as excited about it. And if that theme resonates with a product or a service, it just happens to resonate with a product or service that you have, then that might be a potential avenue for you to take a look at. So anyways, I thought that was really cool, that what you're describing, which is, of course, you have certain people that want to back certain things, but there's massive themes, and that's what kind of guides you in picking out what this potential next conversation should be about. For TED's business model is divided into conferences and events, which is obviously we were talking about TED conference, TEDx events, content distribution. So like the TED Talks, TED.com, sponsors and partners. You just shared a little bit about that. Licensing and syndication, TED Books, TED Ed, which is for like the universities and education, membership program. You have grants and donations because, as you mentioned, it's a non-for-profit. So I love to kind of highlight a little bit, because this is, I think, relevant for everyone in the event space, licensing and distributing content. You were talking about for TEDx events, they're volunteers, but they pay a certain license, right? If they fall
They
under
don't pay.
Oh, no, they don't pay.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So they reach out to you, and if they follow the guidelines of what TED, what a TED event is, then they can do what they like to do. How about, like, could you share a little bit about the licensing process for TED? Because that must be a completely, for me, that's a really fascinating space and world. You have a ton of speakers that are coming in. Obviously, this is placed on YouTube, and there's many different ways. How do you figure out licensing for this? How does that work?
The main thing about a licensing program, which I think is very, very hard for a company, is letting go of control. And so you got to understand you're placing a lot of trust in someone, in an entity, to pull off something that you control and care about, because that can affect your reputation, that can affect your brand. And so that's the number one thing, that there was a debate within TED about the fact that you have to let go of control if we're going to start this licensing program. You can give all the rules, regulations you want, but you're not there 24/7 to see how these people are pulling stuff off. And you have to create mechanisms for reporting back, not just from the organizers, but from an attendee or someone else who can say, they're not following your standards. There are certain things that are happening. And so we have that mechanism as well, because we've taken licenses away from people. We've shut down certain things. We've had to clear out certain things because they did not follow the rules, or they went rogue, or they did what they wanted to do, and all of that good stuff. So letting go of control is very, very hard to do, but it is a part of it when you do a licensing program.
Were there any particular platforms or softwares that you use to help you keep control or understand, what was happening, and in terms of communications and all that?
Yeah, there's an intranet. We have a whole staff that services the TEDx community. We don't make revenue other than people who want to support the TEDx community as a global initiative, or what we showcase on our different platforms from the TEDx talks or whatever. So it's literally us kind of putting this out into the world for free and getting this opportunity to showcase speakers we would have never got to connect with if it wasn't for these organizers finding these great people doing it. Brene Brown did not talk at a TED flagship event. She started at a TEDx event. And once we saw that, we platformed her, and then she was invited to a TED event to speak. So it's just like, there's so many amazing speakers out there. I have a full-time curation staff. Their job is to go out and find people to give TED Talks. And there's only limited people they can connect with. And so kind of the TEDx community is extremely important to us, because it is helping us platform speakers we may never find because we're such a small group.
Are there particular, and again, if it's something that's not within your wheelhouse, is perfectly fine. I just get very curious about all this stuff, but is there a particular platform? Because I know finding speakers is a thing, and that's very hard, the curation of it. Are there particular platforms that you've used in the past that you recommend, that you'd enjoy for people out there that are setting up events, are trying to find speakers? Are there things that come to mind?
There's not a particular platform. There are particular tactics that we do. So of course we have full-time curation staff. That's an investment, but we also have an intake. So someone could submit themselves to giving a TED Talk. So you can come to the website. There's a place to nominate yourself and to share why you want to do that. This is the kick. This is the kicker. People don't do research. People are so used to copy and pasting a talk that they've done somewhere else, or they don't put in time to say why my talk is different than the thousands of TED Talks we already probably have on that topic. They don't do any research a lot of the time. They just say, I have a great idea. I want to give a TED Talk. I'm going to submit. And we had 20,000 submissions so far come through our intake form. So you really have to figure out how you're going to stand out. You really have to do your own research and say why your talk is different than the thousands of other talks that are on our platform. And you really have to have something that sparks an interest. They are all read. We all go through that. So you have to have some type of intake, because when you say you want to give a TED Talk, I don't care if it's a TEDx or a TED flagship talk, people get excited. So it's great that we have a strong brand where we don't have to look so hard for speakers. They kind of come to us.
Right.
It's the fact that you have people who don't know how to properly submit a really good idea. And then they get frustrated because they're like, I've submitted 7 times, but I'm like, what did you submit? Like, and then they show me.
By the way, that's a great problem to have.
Right.
of because you're so well known of people applying.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty good. Richie,
that's
you
pretty
wanna
cool with the pipeline of TEDx. That's awesome. That's huge. How do you measure success and impact of the events? Are there any unique KPIs or any other indicators?
So attendance. So there's an in-person indicator, digital indicator. So with attendance, year-over-year retention is really important. How much new business. Also, age for us is really important as well. So with our Vancouver event, our average age is 54 plus that comes to Vancouver. And so you have to build a pipeline of younger people kind of coming in, because people eventually start aging out of something like that. So that's why also TED Next was also created, because right now my average registration person is 35 years old for TED Next. So if and I have people of all ages coming to TED Next. You have to be 18 and over, but the sweet spot for us right now is 35 to 45. And so those are the people that will grow up to become going to Vancouver, but we have to start, age matters to that too. Then views, we have billions of views of our TED Talks online. So hosting our talks on various platforms, we have a TED Talk, not just a TikTok, who gets a lot of engagement on that. We're on all of the major platforms. We're number 3 on LinkedIn as the highest grossing engagement on LinkedIn is TED with 23 million followers. I just launched a newsletter literally 3 weeks ago on LinkedIn. I have close to 2.5 million already subscribers just for that newsletter. So TED is a very strong brand. And so we're very lucky, and that we have a lot of people who like to engage with us.
And Monique, when it comes to everything we've been talking about, has been a lot about external events. And for a lot of companies, they have their external events and they also have internal events as well. Does TED have internal events for for the staff? And is like, and how do you, is there a flagship internal event, and how do you actually measure success for those internal events?
We have quarterly all hands. We let our staff do their own TED Talks. We have staff retreats. So absolutely, there's our internal events. We also have something called the TED at Work product. And so our TED at Work is where we license corporations to give their own internal TED events. So we have partners who do that because they want to showcase new ideas within their organization in a TED-like way. So they come and get a TED license, or we help them host a TED-like event in their organization. So yeah, absolutely. It's bigger than just external.
You talked about Brene Brown as one of those talks that everyone knows, right? Everyone has heard. Really cool that it came from a TEDx event before it made it to the flagship. And I have some of my favorites, like Andrew Stanton's The Clues to a Great Story, the Finding Nemo, one of the people that wrote Finding Nemo. I love that. There's so many, right? Sir Ken Robinson. How do you approach talking about content repurposing? Because obviously we talked about licensing. We talked about, you have all these individuals that are sharing these incredible stories. How how do you repurpose content from events, and how do you make sure that there's like, in terms of permissions, and I know that's part of a bit on the licensing side as well, but like, how do you repurpose content, one, and what type of standards do you put in place that allow you to repurpose it the way that you want to repurpose it?
We have a lot of legal standards. And so we have, of course, speaker releases. We have release forms for presentations. We check everything. We have our general counsel at our conference sit through every single TED Talk to call out certain things that we have to review or make sure we have approval to showcase online, not just in person. So we have to make sure there's licensing across various things, licensing for music, entertainment that we showcase. So it's an undertaking, it's an investment, but we're a trusted brand because we do that, right? We just don't throw anyone up on a stage or is able to give a TED Talk without going through all the proper channels. And people trust that. So, you know, it's an investment that is needed and worth it in the end, because it has helped to build a trusted global brand.
Very cool.
Monique, could you tell us a little bit more about the events venture group? A couple of months ago, you had a couple of the world leading event thought leaders create this group. What is it? Why did you create it?
So I come from the fintech world. Of course, you live in a place where there's a lot of entrepreneurs, VC backing, people kind of startups and starting new things. There was nothing like that within events. What happens is you have an event, you blood, sweat, and tears, you grow it, and then you probably sell it to one of the big guys, but there was no one helping you with the growth. There was no advice. There was no advisory that was helping, and there was no funding and financing. And so me and 5 other, thought leaders within this industry decided to get together and create the Event Ventures Group, EVG. There's a website there, and it was like, let us be the change we want to see. And so it's a membership organization now where we just launched a couple of weeks ago. We've been planning for this since the beginning of the year. We just did the official launch, and we're going to have a membership. Hopefully we're trying to get up to 100, which will finance startups within the events industry, and not just for an event, but event tech as well, and offer funding and advice and, bringing different ideas to the table for you to think about and how you can be successful quicker, because there's a lot of trial and error in this industry. And so if you have a group that has been there, done that, has grown, thousands of events, like, I have the chairman, we have the chairman of Clarion Events, you have myself, you have a VC starter of Money 2020 Health, Vive, you have the person that used to be the CEO of Freeman, you have the biggest names you can think of as board members here, kind of helping create and grow our industry.
Yeah, no, that's great. One thing I wanted to ask you, when it came to the membership and then also funding, do you have an idea a little bit more about what that looks like? I know you just started it, you're kind of putting it all together, but any idea about, for any founder out there that's in the event tech space that wants to apply, or like, how does that work?
So we have an intake form on the Event Ventures Group website. And so what we do is we do reviews of those who are looking to participate in EVG, whether it's in funding, advisory service, or what have you. So we're just starting that. So at the end of Q2 is where we're so far that stuff is coming in. We're going to do a review, the board and the members of the organization. So you can either join as a member or you can submit for an idea. And like I said, it's not just for events, it's for event tech as well. And then we're going to see who wants to fund it. So no one's required to fund anything. So what you would do is you would bring in that organization, they would pitch. We would say, okay, this seems legitimate. This seems like something that would be interesting to the group. We're going to bring you on so you can kind of do your pitch. And then whoever wants to fund it, whether it's $25,000, $50,000, $1 million, $100,000, whatever a member wants to give, they can give it. and they can provide that. Not all members will fund everything. They don't have to. You might get 2 members that want to help fund something. You might get 10 members. You might get 20 members. You might want people who want to sit on your personal advisory board for your company. You can do that too. You can take some from that membership. So there's various options for startups.
I love that. That's so cool. And I'm already declaring and announcing that I will throw my hat in this program.
There you go.
Yeah, no, but really cool. Amazing. And you're right about this space needing something like this, because it doesn't have that many platforms out there to provide it that type of support, what you're mentioning. So that's really, really cool.
Absolutely.
And Monique, on the space of AI, all industries are trying to figure out how to best utilize it. And how is TED thinking about, especially with so much content as well? I imagine there's going to be something there. How are you guys thinking about AI, and if not just TED, the whole event management space? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my God, it's the wild, wild west out here with AI. And literally just trying to figure out how to use it for not only just your day-to-day tasks, but how do you enhance your business, and how do you stop it from crushing certain parts of your business? Like, we're thinking about all of that, and we're in all of that as a publisher, as a media entity.
Yep.
AI is changing the game across everything that you're trying to do. What I'm super excited about, though, with what we just launched is dubbing. So our TED Talks are now dubbed in multiple languages. So let's say you're coming from Brazil and you come to our site to look at a TED Talk. It recognizes that you're coming from Brazil. So you're going to get the TED Talk in that language, in Portuguese, and not in English first. And so kind of that has been exciting, and that's via AI. So that has been exciting for a lot of our community members to kind of see that coming on track for us. But also there's a conversation that needs to be had about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this as well. And so that's why we've also launched these 2 very specific conferences that are thematic and topical just around AI. I was in San Francisco last year when we first launched the TED AI event there, and there was some great conversation, and then there was some angry conversation, you know what I'm saying? And things like that. And so we have to give those spaces too. So it's not just about what it's doing for us. It's not just about how it's affecting our business, but also how we're putting this information out to the community so they can weigh in and help be change makers for that as well.
Well, I wanna open it up for Q&A, and so if you have a question, just raise your hand. I see Alex Raymond here has a question. Alex, thanks for joining us. Feel free to share a little bit.
Super, thank you, Monique. Really appreciate it. My question is about vertical versus horizontal events. I run a brand new event which is basically personal development for entrepreneurs. And we always get pulled in this direction of like, do we want to make it more broad? So just sort of personal development generally, or keep it super specific, not even entrepreneurs, but a certain niche of entrepreneurs, maybe those who have raised money or what have you. How do you think about the broad versus the highly specific when it comes to things like attendance, pricing, word of mouth, ability to focus, and stuff like that?
I always appreciate the vertical as the launching pad for anything, because it's where you cut your teeth and you learn what really works for the community and not. So like even with, TED AI, we kind of went backwards because TED has been around since 1984. So it's a generalist conference. But the vertical ones are extremely popular because now people are looking to kind of deep dive into certain things. So it's easier for us to find sponsors because of that, who want to just be around that particular topic. It is easier for people to understand where they fit into the matrix of something when it's a vertical. So I feel like if you're kicking off or starting off something, vertical works great. It helps you, but it could be your growth plan that eventually you get to more of a generalist opportunity. And so I always think the growth part, the journey part, giving yourself the space and the time to get to the general is important, and just really like blow it out of the park with the vertical first and building the community interest and trust, so that when you start going general, they have the trust that whatever you're bringing to the table still will be top notch and good enough.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Raise your hand. In the meantime, if I don't see one, I have one for you, which, oh, here we go. We have Brandy. Brandy, go for it.
Hi, Monique. This has been great. It's been so informative, and I am connected with you on LinkedIn, and I like all your posts all the time. So I'm glad to be talking to you face to face. What I want to know is, because you started at the event kind of practitioner level, and now that you've moved over into the strategy level, and what stuck out for me is you saying you're over sales, marketing, all of that. That's one of my current struggles in terms of coordinating. Really, I sit under marketing, but coordinating with the sales team and trying to bring everyone along and really getting that alignment. So my question for you is, sitting at a more strategic level, which is where I hope to take my current career, what are top best practices in terms of getting your teams to work together, to communicate together, and to get everyone to kind of march to the same beat?
So every time I go into an organization, I build brand equity. And so I wanted to be known for 3 very specific things whenever I go into a company. Number one, that I'm a business strategist. I just don't think about what I need to do for my particular business. I think about how my business plugs into the organization. And I always talk about that and use that language when I'm talking to leadership and things like that. Number two, that I'm a revenue driver. So when I joined TED, sales did not report into me originally, but I used to run sales at my previous organization. And so when I came in, I was like, I think there's certain things that we can do to improve certain areas or whatever. I would love to start hosting workshops. And I would love to have these conversations with some of your sales teams and really think about how I can be more helpful from a tactical standpoint. And so I started to do that before I even had that job. And I had already trust because they knew where I came from, but also they saw that I was trying to be helpful in certain ways, not take over certain things. So I wanted to be a business strategist, a revenue driver. And third, I wanted to be known as a leader of high performing teams. And so how do you do that is to showcase how you're elevating certain people in your team to think more strategically. So I would have these different conversations with team members, show them in the different all hands meetings, have them do presentations, do certain things to show that this team was a high performing team. That alone, so I was reporting to the CEO, but he saw that I was bringing more to the table than just thinking about events in that way. So building the brand equity, making sure you're clear about what you want to be known for in the organization, and having access to leadership to showcase those on a continual basis helped me get that promotion that I eventually got through TED.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandy, and thanks, Monique. There's one last question here, and Ray, go for it.
Yeah, hey there. I think you just answered it. It was going to be around how do you map event metrics to business outcomes, right? The things that at the C-level people care about. And I think you just kind of answered it.
But also, one of the challenges I feel a lot of event organizers have is they don't use the language of the C-suite when they're explaining what they're doing with their business. And so I learned that when I said I wanted to be a leader within this industry, I got very intentional about getting access to the rooms where the CEO was being presented about my business. Even though I wasn't the person doing the presenting, I would ask, can I come into those meetings so I can kind of understand? And I listened to the questions that person was asking my leadership. And I was like, okay, so this is how I have to talk about my event. Like they think from this person is a mission-driven person. So let me always start with the mission. This CEO is a revenue-driven CEO. Let me start with the revenue. This person is a pipeline. So I really was like, I listened more than I spoke. And I really got to understand what was the language I needed to bring to the table when I was in these rooms. And that helped me shape and connect and be the connective tissue between my business and the organization. I knew exactly what I needed to say to perk up their ears so they would listen to what I was saying.
That makes sense. Monique, any question, anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't get to ask that's top of mind?
I just want to share that the events business is a viable, strong, exciting business. It is why many corporations are doubling down and investing more within events. It is a profitable business, but it could burn you out a little bit because there's so many details and things like that, and you can't do that. You have to find the right partners, you have to get the right teams together, and you have to understand the why of what you're trying to do. But you can be very successful in the events industry and in the events business if you're very strategic about how you're going to do that.
Awesome. I love that. Well, Monique, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you
Thank you,
and
Monique.
what you're doing. And thanks everyone for joining us. And I look forward to staying connected. And for anyone else that wants to, oh, look at that. Oh, Richie, professional.
I was trying, you know.
We can at least try to be professional. But anyone else out there, Monique, is there a particular link? What's the event, the link for the event?
Yes, let me get the Events Venture Group link for you. It's events with an S here. I'm copying and pasting. Give me 1 second. Don't click off.
Richard, can you lower the music? Now I can't hear Monique.
You went crazy.
There
There's the link to the Events Venture Group.
All right, there you go. www.eventsventuregroup.com. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is what he gets power hungry when he has those.
He needs
I
attention.
have an 18-month-old that plays with my controllers.
That's also true. All right. Well, thank you so much, Monique. Thanks
you.
everyone for joining us.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.